Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rebels After Show. I'm Kristian Harloff. John Campia, not here this week, but he'll be back next week. Don't worry, got some great guys talking with me about Rebels. This is episode 4 of season 2. First, he is part of this show. His name is David Griffin. You've also seen him on the Flash After Show. David, what's going on, dude?
Happy to be here. Happy to talk about some Star Wars Rebels. I love this show.
There you go.
Don't know why that was so funny.
You're so happy, and you're jovial. And next to you, maybe because you got the class clown next to you.
There you go.
You've also seen him on the Walking Dead After Show here, as well as Flash.
Yeah.
He is John Rocha. What's up, John?
What's up, man? How's it going? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about Rebels.
Me too.
Let's do it.
Episode 4. Let's talk about this one. So the way it works here, if you're brand new, we're going to talk about some of the things that we enjoyed about the episode. Then we'll go over a couple that we didn't, a couple things that we didn't, and then we'll just talk overall thoughts about where we think it's going. John, let's start with you, man.
Yeah.
So you just watched the episode.
Yeah.
What were your overall thoughts? Oh, does anyone remember the name of the episode?
Yeah, it's called Brothers of the Broken Horn.
Okay, Brothers of the Broken Horn. That makes sense. Okay, John, so what'd you think? And first of all, before you get into it, you watched all of Clone Wars?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just curious.
Oh, my God. What kind of question is that?
We're going to go deep
because
today. We're going deep today. We're going back.
Wait, let me turn my phone
We're
on.
going back.
It ties in. It ties in.
It does, actually. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah, that's one of the things I enjoyed about this episode, actually, because when David first handed me the episode, he was like, well, it's kind of filler a little bit. It's got some stuff. But actually, I found it to be a lot more interesting than a regular filler episode, because you had more the progression of Ezra questioning now whether he wanted to be a Jedi or a rebel or even one, or a soldier, rather, or a Jedi. And I like that. I like that idea that he's still questioning himself, and you're getting the progression of him like being a teenager, a typical teenager. He's rebellious, he's cantankerous, he violates the rules, he talks back, he says stuff and then just storms away. And I think that's good, because that relates to what people are watching now. The kids that are at that age are like, can connect to Ezra in that way. And those of us who have lived through that experience, we understand. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of pressure that he's under too. And without parental guidance, you're going to get those kinds of reactions.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that as well, and it was reminiscent to what kind of happened with Anakin as well too.
Yeah.
Because we've always said, I mean, look what Obi-Wan said to Luke in episode 4 was the fact that he wasn't able to train Anakin. He took it upon himself to train him, and he was like, as well as he thought Yoda did with him, and he was wrong. Kanan's not even a real Jedi yet, like not an official Jedi, and he's training Ezra. So Ezra's he's becoming strong, he's becoming powerful. I mean, even in this episode, the things that we've seen in this episode, his powers are coming in a lot more. It took a lot more powerful Jedis a lot longer to figure out how to pull. I mean, look at Luke. Look at Luke forever to figure out how to do all the force pushes and being able to grab stuff. And Ezra's doing it like that. What I liked about this episode as well, besides that stuff, is that the reason I brought up Clone Wars here is the reintroduction of Hondo.
Yeah.
Now, Hondo is a character that Clone Wars fans, for the most part, loved. He was a scoundrel. He was a guy who would do the bad thing if he had to. He'd do the good thing if it benefited him. And he hasn't changed, except he's gotten a little older, but his sense of humor is there. I love the crack on the fat pig, the guy. I forget his name, but where he says something like, oh, don't talk about your wife like that. He just had these quips, and I like, even when he's pretending, he's like, oh, Lando. And like this, he knew that Ezra wasn't Lando the whole time, but he had these conversations with him. He's always going for the next deal. And so I really enjoyed having him back. And I also like bringing back, and I'm sorry about the forgetting the names here too. The other guy that they've been making deals with that was locked up in the cell, the whole entire time. I like
Bizzago.
Thank you. The reintroduction of Bizzago, and because this is what you're saying, John, to where I didn't think this was a filler either, because Rebels has shown, especially last season, they don't do fillers. Even those two episodes last season you thought were filler, they tied back in to the overall arc. So I really liked the way that it went, and I liked Ezra kind of having his own single mission. Wasn't my favorite of the episodes so far, but I certainly enjoyed it.
I really loved the first opening 5 minutes or so with Rex and Kanan kind of just over teaching Ezra a little bit. He's overwhelmed right now. It's that whole dilemma, and this is the age-old thing about Jedi. Just because my only frustration with the Jedis, the good guys, just because of the light side doesn't mean they're always right. Their ideology isn't always correct. So it's always like, am I a soldier or am I a Jedi? And Rex is like, look, you need to be a better soldier. Kanan's like, you need to be a better Jedi. But sometimes, like Obi-Wan and Anakin, like we saw in the prequels, in the Clone Wars, they're both. You have to be both. So Ezra's being pulled in these directions like, look, I need to go out, do my own thing, becomes a pirate for a day. I'd love to see, is it Asmorgan?
Yeah.
The heavyset red guy, and James Wong.
James,
whenever I hear that voice, I just think of Blade Runner.
Yeah,
it's like I just do eyes. I do eyes. Yeah, I do eyes. I love his voice. So just seeing him again is so good.
Yeah. It's so cold.
I just do eyes. That's all I do. I made you eyes. Like I love him. He's such a good actor, such a good voice actor too.
So those were I think that they were like to see what they were going through and like where do you guys see it progressing as far as will we see more of Hondo? Do you think? Is that just like kind of I think he'll pop up again in the series, obviously.
Definitely.
I don't necessarily know, like, because when we started off the season, 1 and 2 was Rex and the clones, and then you got a 2-part arc. I think this is it for Hondo for a couple episodes, for sure.
Well, Hondo was great, and he made that reference to Kenobi when he said, I know, I think he was a best friend.
I think we're friends.
Yeah, I think we're friends. Yeah, those kinds of things. It was a great little callback because in this universe, Kenobi's still alive. Kenobi's still out there. This is before New Hope, so he's still out there somewhere. So it puts that idea that he could come back at any time. There could be a little team up. There could be something where they see each other again and reference Clone Wars again, which would be great. But I think the one other thing I want to make a point on, which you were bringing up here, David, is also you've got Rex, who's not 100% like a full soldier anymore, and you've got Kanan, who's not 100% a Jedi. So Ezra is getting this training from people who are not completely good at what they do or fully trained at what they do. And this is what I believe. I think Ezra, I still think it's in play that Ezra will go bad or will
I think you're right.
Go to the dark side.
They're certainly hinting that.
Yeah, and I think and I love that because it keeps me massively interested in what they're doing.
We talk a little bit about the joke. I don't know if it was a joke, but they said, come on, Rex, even you probably miss sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole stormtrooper. I know he's a clone trooper as opposed to a stormtrooper, but still, sometimes they miss. They miss.
And a lot. And David, you had said something off air as well too. Is like if you're reading the Kanan comic book, you get to see more of the back history of what Kanan was kind of on the run and hung with pirates for a while as well too. Now, granted, that was over the course of years, as where Ezra had this one day. Right. But there was still, he's got. You forget when you first see Ezra that he's pretty much Aladdin. He's a street rat. He's out on his own. He's doing his own thing, and he doesn't rely on anybody. He's able to fix stuff. This is the first time he's been relying on people, and I like that dilemma that he had in this of going back to and even makes reference to the old days. Yeah. So seeing all that was definitely interesting, and watching kind of the progression of his character. But we'll get into, I guess, the things that we don't like in a second here. But question I had, that planet that they landed at the end, was that Coruscant? It looked like it was Coruscant.
It really did. It looked like the citywide planet.
Yeah, it's like Coruscant.
I don't know. It did. It did look like
it. There wasn't any reference of it, but because they showed up, and even when Hondo shows up at the end and he's talking to him, and there's you knew that Ezra wasn't going to go bad or dark in this episode, but the hints of it. Now, I guess that's where we can kind of play into the things that we didn't like. Even though I liked the fact that Ezra did show that in the beginning and had that conflict, it kind of came out of nowhere. Because when the episode started, if you look at the first couple episodes, he's been like kind of, we got to help everybody. We got to save people. That's true. And now he's just like, they're telling me what to do. I'm out of here. Yeah. And it's like that just it was
that's
like
teenagers. That's the thing I liked.
It was. It just and I. It's not that I don't think he would get there. Right. It's just because it felt like they said, okay, this episode we need him to have a little conflict. Let's start with him being upset. And we're a 22-minute episode or 23 minutes, so there's only so much you can do. And the other thing is that as I'm watching it, at one point when what's the pig's name?
Oh, Gonzaga?
Not Gonzaga.
No, Asmorgan. Yeah.
When he showed up, it made me. I go, I'm watching a Disney show. Like when those moments, and it wasn't just because of him. It was just like some of the humor, and then when Chopper was kind of flying in with the guns and shooting and making the silly noises. It's like, okay, this is. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it just happened to make me realize, oh, this is the part where you have to realize, Kristian, you're a grown man and you are watching a child show. But then there's other moments when you don't feel that at all.
No, right.
Remember last season they had I call it the Let's Go Shopping episode, where you had they went grocery shopping.
Oh yeah.
Remember it was Zeb and Ezra. It's like, you guys need to learn. Like Hera did that because they need to learn to work together, they need to learn to get along. So they went shopping for this rare kind of fruit.
Thing.
And it was an okay episode, but I'm like, these guys are just going grocery shopping. That's the whole episode. Because I had to write about it for another site, and I was just like, it was really hard to write about because I'm like, they didn't really do much.
Yeah.
But there was a point to it.
Yeah.
But when it's only 22 episodes, I think that's another weakness. When it's only 22 minutes, You need more time.
Yeah, and I think you got a great point, Kristian, because it's exactly that. It's like in the continuity of the series. If you were binge watching this, you'd be like, wait, this is coming out of left field. Why is he all of a sudden being like upset about it? When he's the one that wanted to bring Rex up, he's the one that wanted to put everybody together. He's the one that wants to learn this stuff. So why would all of a sudden be? But I think you're right. It was serviced a higher purpose of what they were trying to do with the character. And then at the end, you have that kind of like him coming together, saying like, oh, I used to be that guy, and which I liked. But the things you want to talk about, I agree with the whole thing with Disney. It felt like Disney. Also, they couldn't shoot him. He's a large mammal who can't seem to, what I'm saying? I mean, it's real easy to stand and shoot something that huge that isn't moving that fast. That bothered me a little bit. So I was like, well, I guess their point is not to kill, just to put him back in the. But apparently his henchman could be killed because he got shot out of the complex there through that the platform they had, the moving platform. So it was interesting that they didn't shoot any damage to that guy.
As a fan, I'm impatient. We had the 2 Inquisitors, we had Seventh Sister and Fifth Brother last week. Right. So I want to see. We know Vader's out there, just out there doing his thing. So I want to see.
You wanted to see more of that in this episode?
I know it's coming. Okay. It's coming. Right, so I mean, I'm just impatient. I know it's coming.
Do you guys think Ezra's too strong, too fast? Meaning, like, do you think that I didn't mind when he was able to take the control of the robots.
With his powers.
Yeah, because like he was able to stop Hondo from floating out of that airlock.
Right.
And I said, that's a pretty strong Jedi already. I mean, he's only been training for a little bit. Like, it's one thing where you can just pull the remote off of somebody's
belt. He barely could do it because it was going so slow, and the guy,
Yeah, remember how hard his training was last season? Now he's catching dudes.
Yeah.
And he's able to. That's hard. That's hard to do. Like, think about how, like, with Luke and how long it took Luke to figure that stuff out. So either they're doing that on purpose, or they're just letting him use his force powers a little too easy. Right. So I don't know if I dislike that or like that yet, depending on where the overall arc of his character goes.
He's going to surpass Kanan at this rate.
Yeah,
he's going to surpass
if they
Kanan
keep
very
it up
soon.
like this.
That's what I'm saying. So you make a great point, Chris, because it does feel that he's becoming stronger, more powerful, more able to use his powers in situations that make sense. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's when he's panicked.
Yeah.
I think it's adrenaline.
Yeah.
Remember last season when he summoned that big beast?
Yeah.
And Kanan's like, whoa.
So you see he's got
went
that
dark.
anger.
Yeah.
And whereas Luke really didn't have that kind of anger.
I don't know, man. Luke had some too. I think there's a parallel. I think there is a parallel. I'm glad you brought that up because there is definitely a parallel between Luke and Ezra, because you think about how frustrated Luke got when he wanted to leave the planet. And episode 4. Think about like in the cave. Think about on Dagobah when Luke was yelling.
Dagobah is when he really comes in.
I mean, I think Jedi is when he used the anger and he used the hate to take down Vader.
Right.
So, but he was able to reel it in. The question is, can Ezra reel it in?
Yeah.
We don't know yet. I think that the arc with his parents, because we know that that's going to happen. We know that he's either going to find, because Dave Filoni has said you're going to find out more about his parents and who they were. That's going to lead him down one path or another, because that's certainly what happened with Anakin with his mom. That's set him down a really dark, dangerous place.
It'd be like a what if. I mean, I know it's not going to happen because Kanan's in his life, but I mean, what if Ahsoka trained him?
Yeah, well,
he could use Ahsoka.
Is Ahsoka a Jedi? Ahsoka's not a Jedi, though.
But she was.
Yeah,
and
she was. I'm sorry, Ahsoka. I was thinking Hera. Sorry,
Ahsoka
could train.
Yeah, she was Jedi and then left the Order. But I mean, she's going to hang with. I mean, she's the #1 contender for the title.
Yeah.
She's probably more capable than Kanan is to fully train Ezra.
Yeah, I mean, she's got her own mission right now. So.
Yeah. Okay, I mean that was the majority of the episode. I just anything in here that we're missing, any plot points that you guys want to go over to where I think for the most part it was reintroducing Hondo, and like John had brought up too, a little reference without mentioning their names with Obi-Wan, who he's talking about. They also Rex did that with mentioning Anakin without mentioning his name. I like these little subtle references, and I like the fact that you can watch Rebels and not watch Clone Wars and not be lost. But it is a nice nod and a nice reward for fans who did watch all 6 seasons of Clone Wars to go, well, that's cool to see Rex. It's cool to see Hondo. I'm sure we'll get a couple more. I'm hoping to see Cad Bane. That's the one I'm waiting for. Yeah. We don't know how old Bane is. We don't know what his species lives to, so it's very possible. And I think Filoni also loves him as well, too. But this overall season, I think we're in for a whirl of where we're going to go. All right, so let's pose. Here's a question for you. Okay. What classic character do you think is going to make an appearance in Rebels next? Because we know that there are more that are coming. What and do you think it'll happen in the next episode, or when do you most likely think who the next person is? John, we'll start with you.
I think Leia. I think because they've already introduced Bail Organa, so so Leia's only she's at the age where they would possibly bring her in.
Right.
And Carrie, I don't know if they'll have Carrie Fisher or they'll have someone else voice her, but I think it's certainly in play that she shows up because if you've got Bail already, then you've got that connection to her, and they've already gone to his planet to do it. So who knows what missions could take her there? But it would be a great little reveal or surprise to spring on people who've been watching the show. I would love to see Leia.
David?
I hope we get to see Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I wanted them to. I know he's not leaving Tatooine, as far as I don't know where he. I mean, but maybe they go down the planet, stumble upon him, they need to link up for some reason. I know he's kind of in the comics. They kind of portray him as this hermit,
right now,
and he's hiding. Like I think it was issue. I read all these issues,
7
or 8. He was in. He's like, I can't go to town anymore, so maybe we won't see him. But I'm holding out hope. I would love to see Obi-Wan.
I think you guys are both right that they will. Both of them are going to show up, and I was almost going to say Han Solo because there's been so many rumors of him popping up for sure. But actually, I'm going to go Boba Fett. I think Boba Fett to me is going to make an appearance and especially with, I know that we're getting these Mandalorian episodes with Sabine soon, so I wouldn't be surprised if Boba Fett shows up. It won't happen right away. Is you're going to find out more about her family or history, and then whether or not he's part of her family, I would say probably not, but certainly part of her culture. So I'd love to see that.
Can you speak to, I'm just curious, is where we are is, I know after Lords of the Sith, we have Hera's dad.
Yeah, Cham Sudala.
Can we see him? You think
we're gonna hear about him, whether or not he's alive or dead. I don't know, but Dave Filoni confirmed that we will learn about Hera and why she got involved in her family and Cham Sudala and all that stuff. We're gonna hear about that stuff, and that was one of the things I loved about hearing Filoni talk at that press conference is how deep enriched this season will be in characters. Like everyone's going to get their backstories, and we're going to learn more about them, which is necessary and needed at this point.
Nice.
All right, that's our episode this week. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for Rebels Recap. I'd like to thank the people on the panel today. First, John Rocha. John, where can people find you?
You can find me at The Rocha Says there, Rocha. You can, I host a lot of shows and podcasts, so anything I host, I always post there, so you can follow me and listen or watch me.
David Griffin. You can find him where you can tomorrow actually on Jedi Council. You make sure you check that out. But David, where can I find you?
I'm on Twitter at GriffinDE. Here I'm known as Grand Moff Tarkin on the Flash Recap Show. I'm known as Wally West, aka Sexual Chocolate. So just be sure to look for me there and on some other Clatter videos.
Grand Moff Griffin, my friend.
Did I say Tarkin?
Tarkin, yeah. I did that to you.
That's right.
I did it to you as well.
I forgot my own name.
Yeah. And I'm Kristian Harloff. You can find me at Kristian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram. And like I mentioned before, Collider Jedi Council every Thursday. We talk everything Star Wars. We talk a little bit about Rebels on there as well too. And last week, if you didn't catch Jedi Council, well then you should go back and watch it because we had Kanan himself, Freddy Prinze Jr. was on, talked a full hour and a half about just Star Wars. It was great. And make sure you do that. Check that out. We'll be back next week. John Campea will be back for episode 5 of Rebels. And until then, peace out. Great.